Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Town Hall webinar this afternoon. A week or so ago, I requested that staff set up a series of these webinars, different formats. This is specifically on public safety, questions and concerns you may have regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. On Friday, this last Friday, we held a webinar with about 60 of our local businesses on the line. We had a representative from the SBA to try to help them to navigate through the information. There's just so much information floating around out there right now. And I thought it was important that we try to dissect the number of calls that we've been on and try to push some of that information out to the village of Bartlett. So I'm Village President Kevin Wallace, and joining me are Bartlett Fire Protection District Chief William Gabrenya, and also our village chief Patrick Ullrich from the Bartlett Police Department. We also have our village administrator on the call and a few other distinguished people to answer any questions that we might have. Please make sure to complete the public comment form that is listed on the village's webpage if you have additional questions as this goes on. So I'm going to address one of the first questions that we had is how many COVID-19 cases are there in the village of Bartlett right now? And according to the Cook and DuPage and Kane County Health Departments, there are 17 COVID cases in the village of Bartlett as of Monday today, April 6th. The Cook County portion of the village has 10 cases. The DuPage County portion has 7 cases. And so far in the small little portion of Kane County, there's 0 cases. But I would encourage you, the specific information, obviously, as you all probably have visited, are listed on each one of the county health department's websites. So I would encourage you to visit those for up-to-date numbers. Now I'll briefly go through some questions. We're going to direct some of these questions to the proper person. Some of it will be directed to the police department, some in conjunction with the police department and the fire department. And there are a lot of really good questions, and hopefully we can get you some answers to some of the things you're wondering about as far as how the village is handling this situation. The first question is, what are some of the symptoms of COVID-19, and what should residents specifically know if they're experiencing symptoms or want to get tested? So I believe Chief Gabrenya, I think that's probably your kind of area of expertise. I know you went through this on a call before with us. Can you share with residents what they should expect there?
Yes, definitely. I have also Deputy Chief Brian Becker with me, and he's going to help answer some of these questions. So I'm going to start off with him.
So the symptoms of COVID-19 typically present themselves as a dry cough, difficulty breathing, a fever, and sore throat. Those are kind of the 4 most common. Some of the secondary symptoms that have been seen are a productive cough, headache, body aches, things of that nature. And then Mayor Wallace, if you could, the second part of your question again.
Yeah, if they're experiencing symptoms, this seems to be an ever moving target. What is their situation, and where to go get tested, and who are being allowed to be tested now?
So the CDC recommendation is still that if you have mild symptoms, in other words, your difficulty breathing isn't profound, you don't have severe chest pain or anything like that, you stay at home and you treat for the symptoms that you're having with over-the-counter medicine. Contact your primary care physician, and those primary care physicians can try and get you testing if they feel that it's appropriate. And then, of course, if you have life-threatening situations like profound difficulty breathing or chest pain or things of those natures, you would certainly want to call 911 for those types of symptoms.
And from the testing perspective, it's kind of changing every day. But what we're seeing right now when we transport patients to the hospitals, that they're only testing patients that are admitted or that are coming from a long-term care facility, and lastly, it's a healthcare worker. So those are the kind of the testing right now. But if you come in and you're discharged or not serious, then they will not test you.
Okay, and this kind of leads into the next question that we have here. What are the fire district and police department doing to protect their employees from being exposed to COVID-19? And I believe you mentioned that, Chief Gabrenya, as far as sending one person in. Can you kind of outline how that would look to residents if they do go out on a call, and the police department?
All right, so from the fire department perspective, we're basically keeping all 3 stations isolated from each other to help protect our employees. And then what we're doing is a program that we have out there is called a Scout. So we will send, when you call 911 or we go on a call, we will send one individual in to make contact with that patient or with a family member. And when they're making contact, they're keeping that 6-foot distance. They'll have a surgical mask on, and they're going to kind of screen and ask a series of questions. And based on those questions or the answers we get, we'll determine what proper PPE we put on after that. So again, if those questions come back positive, then that individual might walk back and put on an N95 mask, goggles, a gown, and have all the proper equipment on. And then the rest of the crews coming in will also have the proper PPE on. So by putting this Scout in place, we're trying to eliminate any of our members coming in contact with it without having the proper PPE on.
Thank you, Chief. And Chief Ullrich, do you have anything to add to that?
Just from the police side of things, we have started taking all non-emergency reports over the phone instead of responding in person, just to increase our social distancing and reduce the risk of spread. We also will still respond to emergency calls. Medical calls, we're only going to if the fire department requests us, and then our officers are checking with the firefighters regarding whether they need to put on PPE before entering the scene or not. And then as far as our staff goes, we're social distancing our staff as much as possible. The officers in patrol are doing roll call from their squad cars over the squad car computer. We've separated all of our staff inside, and some staff are working remotely. So really that's what we've done from our end.
Okay, sorry, had a little interruption there. So also another tag onto that is somebody requested information on what safety precautions our residents can take to prevent the spread of COVID-19 to our responders when they actually show up. So just some guidance on if you do need to call 911, what should that household or resident be doing to help prevent the spread?
Fire will take that.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that we're asking our residents to do, especially when we arrive on scene, any person that's in that home who's not feeling symptomatic, we're asking those people to kind of move to a different area of the home just so that we're only exposed to the patient. Another thing is if the patient is able, we're asking those patients to meet us outdoors just to prevent us from coming into the homes. And then again, it's that social distancing. So we're just trying to keep that at least 6-foot bubble between us and anybody who's not the patient in the home.
From the police side, I would say that it starts with our dispatchers. When someone calls 911, either to make a non-emergency report or an emergency report, the dispatcher is going to ask them a series of questions regarding whether they have any symptoms of the disease, whether they've been in contact with anybody, just so that the first responders know how they should prepare when they do respond. And similar to the fire district, we would prefer that whoever calls us meets the officers outside to reduce the need for officers to go inside a residence or a business unnecessarily.
Thank you. So with that, let's talk about the CDC's latest recommendations about wearing cloth face coverings in public. I know that there's some confusion, and I'll add on to that question just with an observation of mine and of many people that I've noticed on social media. We just need to really let people know not to be trashing their stuff in the parking lot of a location that they're picking up groceries or food items, no matter where it is. They need to dispose of those items in their own garbage. I know that there's been a lot of frustration over people just leaving masks and gloves in parking lots. So CDC recommends wearing cloth face coverings in public settings where other social distancing measures are difficult to maintain. especially in areas of significant community-based transmission. So anything else that fire or police have to add to that?
Nothing from fire.
Nothing
I
from
think,
police either.
yeah, I think that when it comes to areas where it's very difficult to social distance, it makes a lot of sense to have something covering your face if you're symptomatic, especially obviously. Moving on, have any of our firefighters, paramedic, or police officers tested positive or been diagnosed with COVID-19? And I believe this is some breaking news for the police department. So Chief Ullrich, I will let you take that.
All right, thank you. Yes, we were notified this morning that we did have a police officer test positive for the virus. He hasn't been back to work for several days, so I don't think that he's exposed anybody since the time he initially got sick. I can report that he's feeling better, so that's a good thing, and that's really all the information I have at this point.
Chief Gabrenya, any firemen testing positive or symptoms?
So from the fire department side, initially when this all started, we had 2 firefighters that we kept in isolation for 14 days. They had responded to an unconscious child, and turned out that the child was symptomatic, and we didn't have the crews that responded didn't have the proper PPE on. So we were waiting for the results, which took 11 to 12 days to get back at the time. You know, results are getting back much quicker now, but back a couple weeks ago. And so we put 2 of those individuals in isolation for 14 days. We finally got those results at day 12, came back negative. So to date, we have no individuals that have tested positive.
Good. This question has kind of been answered somewhat, but I think there's a few areas that we could add to. What are some of the safety measures the fire district and police department implemented to better protect the community and first responders from the spread of COVID-19? I think Chief Ullrich, we, especially the community protection thing, you know, there's a lot of people that aren't out on the streets. I know we've increased some patrols. If you want to highlight some of that.
Yeah, so some of the things that we've done is the patrol officers have been told to stay out of the station and on the street. So you're likely to see more vehicles driving around just to keep them separate from the rest of our staff, but also during times like this, it's important to be visible to the community. So that's what I've asked them to do. They're doing extra patrols at businesses because a lot of them are closed due to the stay-at-home order. So they're doing a lot of extra business patrols. They're patrolling parks and schools and business parks, and and really that's what we've asked them to do. We want them to be visible and just show our community that we're continue to be there for them during these tough times.
And Mayor, from the Village Hall perspective, you know, we've closed Village Hall to the public as well as Bartlett Hills. We've asked folks to, we are still providing services, and that we have availability of online activity, phone calls. We're doing a lot of remote work. We're using the Dropbox for people to drop things off to Village Hall, and just continuing the services that we're providing. The public works staffs are working in split shifts. They are continuing to do their work, but we've again implemented a number of the safety social distancing practices that we've done in the police department to keep the public works staff as separated as much as possible. And everyone that can work remotely is, and those who cannot are separated safely. Thank you.
Very good.
So from the fire side of things, what we've prepared for and have planned for, so we have a continuity of operations plan in place, which may change our staffing model depending on if we get into this surge that they talk about. So we have prepared internally that if we have an increase in call volume, that we're able to handle that. We continue to have daily meetings with Central DuPage Hospital, which is our resource hospital, Illinois Department of Public Health. And then we're also in meetings with the Village of Bartlett and our surrounding fire departments just so that we have plans in place if in case calls increase.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Speaking of those collaborative efforts, that's a good segue to this next question, Chief Gabrenya. Some of the collaborative efforts, not only with the fire district, but the police department, have been done with senior living centers, Hanover Township, Wayne Township, the library, and the park district in response to this pandemic. I know that from previous calls, Hanover and Wayne Township are making wellness calls to seniors, phone calls, obviously, and making sure that they're okay, additional meals. If you, the chief, either the police or fire department, want to address that collaboration with those organizations.
You want to start, Bill?
Sure. Yeah, just that collaboration has been working really well. We probably about twice a week at a minimum, we do have meetings with, again, the townships, the library, park district, Village of Bartlett Police Departments. And again, it's kind of going through the plans that we have in place for that continuity of operations. And it's working with our other local governments and making sure that we're all on the kind of the same plan and getting that same message out there and kind of helping each other out wherever we can. You want to?
I'd also say that from the police side of things, we've been in contact with all of the county health departments. We've helped try and get some PPE requests for some of the long-term care facilities in town. I've been working with the DuPage County Chiefs of Police Association to help. We've been working to help each other create policies on how we can best keep up with all the changes, because a lot of the changes are coming at us daily, if not hourly, and we need to stay on top of those. And I've also been reaching out to some of the other chiefs in the area, police chiefs, regarding contingency planning for mutual aid. If we need mutual aid, if one of our departments is hard hit or their department is hard hit, how will it look, and help each other out to keep our towns going.
You know, I'd also just add that, you know, these are a series of calls that we're doing, and we're planning to have one targeting the services to adult senior services with both Hanover and Wayne Township. We're looking to plan that for later this week. And then also the park district and the library district. So we'll have similar calls with those partners as well. I will say that the mayor and I have been hitting the conference call button frequently. I know I do calls with my counterparts in other municipalities, as well as the state and the city of Chicago, and both regional and state calls. There's 2 of those a week. The mayor does, I mean, I'll let the mayor speak, but he's, you know, on calls with over 300 mayors, you know, at least once a week, and our local folks as well. So we continue to keep those conversations not only with the county and the state, and our local counterparts have been really very helpful.
Yeah. And they have,
the only thing I can add real quick here,
yeah,
the police chief touched on it, is the long-term care facilities, which is really our high-risk facilities during this event. And so we are in touch with them almost on a daily basis. We have meetings with them once a week, and they have plans, procedures in place that they've given us. And so we've worked together with, you know, PD and us and these in the village and these long-term care facilities to making sure that they're doing everything right. And if somebody does come in sick, what the plan is that we have in place. So again, that's very important, because those are our high-risk facilities.
Yeah, excellent. So some of the concerns we're hearing from the Bartlett community and the governor's stay-at-home executive order, I will kind of read the information that we have up to date from the police department, but then also I'm going to add a few of the questions that we've received most recently into this question. But the majority of the complaints that the police department received, Chief, do you want to go through that?
Yeah, sure.
You can let people know what you've received, and then I'll add on to the questions that we've just recently received about, you know, the golf disc park, the dog parks, and things like that. Go ahead.
Okay, so some of the complaints we've been receiving are from solicitors, not so much going door to door ringing doorbells, but delivering leaflets and flyers advertising their businesses. So what we've asked residents to do in those instances is to call the police department, provide us with the name and the phone number of the company, and we would call them and tell them that advertising for their business during this time is not essential and that they should refrain from doing that. We've only had one complaint for a non-essential business that I'm aware of, and we looked into that, and that business was deemed to be essential. So that was unfounded. And we continue to get several complaints about what is and what is not allowed at parks, playgrounds, tennis courts, and basketball courts. So essentially, the governor has closed all playgrounds. So playground equipment, slides, swings, anything like that, monkey bars. Tennis courts, as long as people are abiding by social distancing, are still allowed to be open. And basketball courts, if it's one or two people shooting hoops, that is supposedly allowed. But if they're playing contact games, so 1-on-1, 3v3, 5-on-5, whatever, that is not allowed. So we've been working with the park district to try and educate everybody on what's allowed and what's not allowed. The park district itself has also closed athletic fields, the facilities, the skate park, and the golf courses, as well as the playgrounds. As far as the athletic fields go, they've told us it's close to all team activities. But if somebody wants to use the athletic field to fly a kite or kick a soccer ball with their kid or play catch or whatever, that is allowed as long as people are, again, following the social distancing guidelines and are in groups of less than 10 people. So we will respond to those complaints and investigate them. And if people are in violation, we will ask them to leave.
Hey, Pat, does that also pertain to the dog parks? We had a question come in about that.
So I think every agency is handling things differently. My understanding is dog parks are open as long as, again, people are abiding by the social distancing standards.
Thank you.
But I've heard some park districts that have closed or forest preserves that have closed them and others are leaving them open. It's all up to, how they want to view that themselves.
I think
the county might have a different, I think that, there's the Village Dog Park that the park district operates, and then there's the county one. And I think I would just refer people to their respective websites to see whether or not they are open, because I'm not sure they're following the same guidelines.
That's what I was going to suggest too.
Yeah. The social distancing advice comes into play there heavily. So many, I believe that's it for that particular category. I know people have been talking a lot about, I saw some notes the other day about people treating the parks like they're wide open and having pickup games. That's absolutely going to be shut down if the police, if somebody does see, 5-on-5 basketball, they need to notify the police and they'll shoot over and try to disband that sort of activity. What are the best questions I've been playing here? So that answers dog parks and stuff. And I don't really want everyone to think that that each different entity here is loosey-goosey on this. The hard and fast rule, obviously, is social distancing and definitely wearing some type of a face where if you aren't able to have that distance in between you and someone else. So I think that that guidance is pretty clear. So here's another topic that has came into with Easter coming up and other celebrations. Many residents have been asking if fire department and police department can participate in these in-car or emergency vehicle parades to help celebrate special occasions. I will turn that over to Chief Ullrich first.
Sure. Chief Gabrenya and I have been in contact about these. And if you look at the governor's order, people are only supposed to go outside and drive on the streets for essential activities. And we kind of view these birthday parties, while it's nice to show support for somebody, we view them as non-essential. So we're discouraging people from doing them, and we are not participating in those types of things.
Okay. All right. Anything to add, Chief Gabrenya?
No, thank you.
And so I believe that some of the pastors were asking about this church drive-through service for blessings in a parking lot. And I would, from what you're saying, Chief, we are discouraging that type of activity. It's just too hard to monitor people getting out of their car and not being far enough apart.
Yeah, so I was in a state police conference call with other agencies throughout the state on Friday, and this question came up. And the recommendation was to discourage churches or religious organizations from doing these drive-through services or doing something over the loudspeaker and having people park and stay in their cars. Because throughout the nation and throughout the world, anytime these religious gatherings are happening, they've seemed to become major sources of community spread. And it's difficult if people start getting out of their cars to control that. And if we have to get called there, or the fire district have to get called there to investigate this, or they have to respond for a medical emergency, it just puts our people in danger as well. So, as well as everybody that's in attendance. So we're discouraging everyone from doing this. If you could do something online, a Zoom meeting like we're doing now, something like that, that would be preferential.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, so how can residents or business community help support the fire district and police department? I think this is a general overall question, and ways that the business district can help and the general residents can help fire and police get through this challenge. Obviously tasked with our safety and your safety. It's a difficult thing to navigate. So if you want to try to give some last minute suggestions here for the general public.
Sure, I'll start first and then Chief Gabrenya can chime in too. We have received a lot of support from businesses and individuals as well. There's several that have contributed to notifying us when they get supplies of hand sanitizer in or cleaning wipes and any other type of cleaning supplies. So that's helped us a lot. Because of this new recommendation for people to wear PPE when they go out, we are going to be updating our procedures as well and having our officers wear masks, including eye protection. So just to help keep them safe. And part of that is cleaning the face shields or goggles every time that they use them and then take them off. So we're going to be going through cleaning supplies and disinfectant wipes a lot quicker than we have before. So if there is anybody that can help us obtain some of those, we're happy to pay for them, and just reach out and let us know. The other thing that's in high demand, I know, both for police and fire, is N95 masks. And we do have a supply of those. We don't have a lot of them. We've got enough right now, and we're hoping to get more. But if anybody has the ability to get some N95 masks, we're always looking for more of those too.
Thank you, Chief.
And Mayor, I would just add that especially our religious organizations, I know you sent a letter to them early last week, just asking them to drive home with their membership the stay-at-home rules and the social distancing rules, and just reminding them of the general, hand washing, social distancing, all those things that we have to, as this continues, we have to keep vigilant on some of those things that we've been doing. So I think that's something that every person in town can do.
Totally agree. Chief Gabrenya, do you have any additional comments? I don't see any additional, well, there might be some questions, but you want to go ahead and let the audience know if there's anything else that they can be helping with?
I think Patrick and Paula kind of touched on the things that we're going to mention. The last thing I would add is that now that that recommendation is coming out for residents to wear masks and stuff like that, I would highly encourage everybody to go to some of these sites like the CDC site and watch videos on exactly how you're supposed to handle those. There's a right way to take your mask off. There's a right way to take your gloves off. And if you don't do it correctly, then you're going to expose yourself. So just want to make sure that the residents out there, when they're putting these things on, understand the right way to take them off.
Hey, Chief Gabrenya, I do see one comment from Mr. Payesh Gandhi of Jain Society. He's asking if N95 masks aren't available, would KN95 be acceptable? I'm not real familiar with KN95. Are you?
Yeah, I am. This is Deputy Chief Becker. So a KN95 is a classification that doesn't come from inside the United States. So that's used overseas. It is equivalent. 3M and different manufacturers have put out documentation showing that KN95 is equivalent to N95. So it is an acceptable type of mask.
Great. Thank you. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Gandhi. Thank you for asking.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us today during this town hall webinar. We will be adding some additional webinars to our agenda and calendar in the future. Obviously, our village board meeting tomorrow night will be via Zoom or some other way to do it remotely. I did post a little note. I just want to read it. If you're anxious and or fearful of this pandemic, I encourage you to be hope-filled. We have some excellent professionals that are here to protect us. With incredible challenge spawns strength and perseverance, and we're in this together. And I would encourage Bartlett to keep supporting those in need, both neighbors and businesses alike. The Wallace family is with you in our prayers, and we will see this nasty virus in our rearview mirror soon, and we will be a stronger community when we're through this. I would also like to thank certainly Chief Gabrenya and Chief Ullrich for participating as well. On behalf of the Village of Bartlett Board of Trustees, I'd like to thank all of our firefighters, paramedics, police officers, nurses, doctors, and other essential workers for their hard work and sacrifices, keeping our community safe during these unprecedented times. Again, keep safe and keep distance. Pretty basic stuff, but we just need to be vigilant about it until we're through this. So I want to thank you all for participating and the information. If you do have additional questions, certainly email or shoot anybody at staff a note, and we'll try to get back to you with the answers to those questions. And look for updates both on the village website and on I believe the Discover Bartlett, other venues that we have, both police Twitter, subscribe to that. The fire department Twitters will be notifying you of additional meetings as they come up. So village administrator, do you have any additional info?
No, I would just want to ask Chris Hostetler, is there anybody that's on the call that had wanted to speak that still does, or if we've answered their questions? Are you getting any indication?
I think you answered most of the questions. If there is somebody, okay, there is an attendee with their hand up, so give me a second to find them. Let's see. Okay. Mr. Shaw? Well, I'm trying to unmute you, but I think you've got yourself muted. Oh, Mr. Shaw?
Yes, hi. Yeah, my question is, Jain Society is part of the village of Bartlett for many years. And first I want to thank Mayor and all the department heads. Thank you for giving valuable information. The question I have is how Jain Society can help the community, and if you can give some ideas about it.
Yeah, I could probably take that one. I think primarily, Mr. Shaw, is just what you had mentioned, the supplies that the police department and the fire department could use now. If you want to find a way to gather some of those. Also, just the general public practicing these, the guidelines that are put out there, social distancing and trying to keep your hands as clean as possible. If you're in an environment where you're going to be closer than 6 feet apart, try to wear some face gear. Chief, do you have anything else?
What about some of the food pantries? We can help in stocking those supplies.
I would, Mr. Shaw, I think that's a great suggestion, I would encourage you to reach out to either or both Wayne Township or Hanover Township. We're going to have a call with them. We're looking to schedule that Friday at 3:30. But do reach out to them. They operate the food pantries, and they've been doing kind of curbside drive up distributions, and they have been working with volunteers there. So I would encourage you to contact the both townships directly.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your offer to help, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hustler, anything else?
I do not see anyone else with their hands up, so
Okay. All right. Thank you all for being on the call, and stay safe. And we look forward to a call in the near future. Bye now.
Thank you.